Welcome. I'm your host, Paula Scatoloni, the founder of Transformative Harmonics, a podcast that offers listeners a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science. Welcome back to another episode of Transformative Harmonics. I'm Paula Scatoloni. Today I have two guests that I'm pleased to share space with. One you have met before, Dawn Marron, and Shae, who I'm bringing on today. This is a chance for you to begin to meet and get to know our faculty and to have a chance for some dialogue in a circle, which is part of what we do. We sit with people in circle, but we are also in circle. We're coming together to talk about some topics that I feel are important at this time. So to begin, I invite you to slow down if you're listening, to create some space within your own nervous system so that anything that we share may make its way and land in a place that feels resonant. And if it doesn't, you may come back to it at another time or return to a certain section of the podcast if there's something. Sometimes we need to hear things a few times or at a different time in our life. And so just giving yourself a chance to slow down and get ready to receive. So welcome. Welcome. Thank you for sharing space. And we'll start with just reminding people, Dawn, who you are and where you're located. And then we'll introduce Shae as well to the listener.
Who am I? This is a work in progress. This is yet to be decided. I really don't want to know, eh? What about you? I don't want to know. I'm enjoying just, playing at it. But I do live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and down here on the bottom end of the world, like Shae, and we are both coming from the future. Every time I talk to people from across the world, it's all because, New Zealand's the first place in the world to see the light every day. And it's like, I'm coming from the future. Which I think is, it's pretty cool. But I am, it's getting harder and harder and to label myself, and also I don't like doing it anymore. I work with people in past life. I've been, a therapist and a counselor, but really I'm just here walking alongside my fellow humans in this process of individuation and awakening and an exploration and discovery, and lending my shoulder for them to lean on, and my open heart for them to lean into, and just holding their hand if they want to hold my hand as we continue up that winding road.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am. That's what I do.
Beautiful. Yeah. And what a road it is, isn't it? Lots of turns and twists. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Thank you. And I would like to introduce our guest who you haven't met yet, listeners. This is Shae Fairleigh. Would you like to say a few things about yourself before we start?
Yes. So, well, I'm also in the future. I'm in Australia, and so it's actually the 20th February for me here in Australia, and it's my birthday. Because I was born here in Australia too. So, yeah. And I also, I don't know what to say about who I am because, it's just I am an astrologer, evolutionary astrologer in this life and in many lifetimes, and I'm in service again in that way mostly, and also with the gene keys and human design and past life regression, soul journeys. And so I guess I'm always, and also galactic astrology. And so I'm always trying to find out a little bit more about who we are, but it just keeps expanding and changing and morphing because we're so much more than we'll even figure out in this lifetime. And yes, so that's pretty much sort of I'm in service of helping people try to figure out who we are, and then it's just always going to be a mystery because we're way more than any of it. Yeah,
never ending. So get used to it. Get used to it.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited to sit with you, beautiful people, and just have a dialogue about some of the things that, you know, we talk often and are pretty aware of what's happening in the world. There's so many things happening all at once, and we've also been on an elongated journey, each of us, of our own healing and supporting others. And so I thought there could be some opportunities in gathering the faculty a few at a time to dialogue about some of these more complex questions that people might be having from things that are very simple, such as what is happening, right? It's like, what is happening? Can you contextualize this? Can you help us understand it? To some really practical skills and things that people will need as they awaken. So I'm hoping we can have a few bullet points today that allow some service and support through our conversation. And I find that I enjoy dialogue better than just speaking in my solo episodes about some of these topics. And so some of it was my selfish wanting to sit and hear your perspective as well and bounce things off of each other, because I always learn when I talk to others as well. So I'm hoping that is what we can do today. Yeah. And so for me, on the top of my list, even though I might have said this in a few different ways so far to the listeners, I do want to start with that larger question of what is happening. And we all have different lenses from which we explain it. But if we wanted to speak into the space around that, of how we talk about it through our lens, that might be a good starting place. My last episode, I talked about coming back to these very ancient wisdom or oneness codes of reciprocity with the earth and knowing ourselves as compassion and love and opening our intuitive pathways, and just began to sprinkle in some things that would help people make sense of what they were seeing in the world, you know. So I'm going to start with that. If either of you want to tackle that question from your lens, if someone is having symptoms of awakening or noticing the things happening in the world today and not understanding, right, how they fit together and what is the bigger picture? How do we explain this to people?
Do you want to start, Dawn, or do you want me to?
Well, actually, I would like you to start because I'm really interested, because you're going to say I know you're going to say some stuff that's going to blow my mind. So I'll hear what you've got to say, because my stuff's your stuff's going to be cosmic, and my stuff's going to be like I'm gonna ground it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So in terms of the because there's been so many prophecies, like, you know, ancient prophecies are all leading to this time. And then through the Gene Keys, through Richard Rudd, who's the founder of the Gene Keys. So he still uses, even though he had his own experience of awakening when he was in his 20s and saw in that expanded state, he sort of got to ask the universe any anything about the future and get the answer. And same happened to Ra, who's the founder of human design. And so with that, he actually still went on to Richard Rudd through Sri Yukteswar. He's the philosophy of us going through the Yugas and the great spans of time, the great epochs. He saw still that model that whenever Earth is out, like whenever Earth is further away from the galactic center, we're in the descending times. And whenever the Earth is aligned with the galactic center, we're in the ascending times. And so in terms of great spans of times, we have in that model, we had a golden age where we actually hadn't even come into form yet. And then and then we went down into the silver age, where we could sort of translate that into being into the Davic realms, like the elementals. And then the bronze age. And then for the last epoch, we've been in the Iron Age, which is the ignorance, where we've been in the forgetting and furthest away from the galactic center. Whilst our journey on Earth has meant that while we've been journeying Earth, we've been in this forgetting period and this ignorance. And at the end of that was the Kali Yuga, and now we're going back up into the ascending time. So we're really centered now again. Earth's in a very close relationship with the galactic center. So we're back into the Ascension and moving back up to the Bronze Age. And this time, because it's like a big spiral, at the Bronze Age, we're in a fast ascent back into remembering now. And so in that way, yes, we've been in the ignorance and the forgetting who we are, where we've been focused on material production, and we've been forgetting that we are a soul and an eternal soul, and having a physical experience as a spiritual being. And now, in the shortest way to explain that, people are really remembering that we are actually spirit, and that we're just having this physical experience. And so, and so this is, in that way, the easiest way, I guess, I can explain. And so I've been personally, I registered Astro Healing in 2012. And so I was taking clients through astrology readings, talking about past lives, and the way that I can talk to the clients now compared to even in 2012 is rapidly different. Because back then, to say that we'd been in the ignorance and the forgetting, and it was like more of a concept that they'd stretch themselves to sort of understand. And I'd be like, yeah, we've been in this patriarchal way, but we've also been in this model where, like, we're using our intellect and we've forgotten our intuition, and we've forgotten that we're a soul, and the soul is the driver, and the mind is supposed to be the healthy co-pilot, but we've forgotten all that. And people would sort of be like, oh, that sounds nice, but they couldn't see it. And now it's not even a stretch. Everyone coming knows that. So as soon as you say that, they're like, oh yeah, of course, I can see that everywhere. That's why I came here today. So it's changed rapidly through that amount of time as well for my clients directly. So I don't even have to speak the same way as I had to before. It's just they just know. Everyone knows on some level.
Yeah, I would say about half of the people that I meet know, and then the other half are just opening up to why astrology could be helpful for a therapist to use. So I have a bit of both. Bit of both. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for starting us. We'll pass back to Dawn.
I mean, we are the ancient prophecies, aren't we? We're the walking, talking ancient prophecies. And we're here. We've carnated here at this time for that reason, because we're all carrying the wisdom, the codes, the knowledge. We've all got, our part to play, and we're all needed and all our voices they're all coded with our individual unique jigsaw piece to put into the puzzle, to place into what's happening, and to empower and enable it and embody it. Since I was a little girl, this, all of this that's happening now, I always knew it was coming. I was born into a really poor family, generational poverty, with very limited horizons and not much opportunity, and it was very dark and very heavy, and a very small environment, a very small world. But I always could see way past that. I always knew everything was, I knew there was more. I knew that it was, I felt like it was an illusion. And although the limitations of it and the restrictions of it were very physically real, it couldn't contain my soul. And so, I always saw, when I was little, I could see colors around people. I could see colors around animals. I could hear things. I could, notice things that other people didn't notice. And although my world was, quite bleak, in reality, my inner world and my knowing that wasn't real was what kept me alive. Really, it's what kept me going. And so I always knew this was coming. I always had this, optimism that that wasn't it, and there was more to us. There was more to me. There was more to us, and there was more to everything. And just to hang in there, because it was coming. But not only was it coming, that we were all instrumental in it. And I knew I had a part to play, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had a part to play. I always had this really strong sense of, it's my Kali energy. I had this really strong sense of who I was. And in the last time I was on with you, Paula, I think we spoke, I can't even remember what we talked about, but I think we did mention, that I journeyed with anorexia for 3 decades. And that whole journey was the conflict for me between the truth of who I was, which is the Kali energy of my wild soul, and the model of the good girl and the fitting in the patriarchal place that a woman should fit. Those two things, which manifested as anorexia, those two things were in constant conflict. So I was in this fight of, my wild soul calling me on and calling me forwards, and the truth, my inner truth, and then the other part of me that needed to squash that and kill that and keep me small and keep me obedient and compliant and doing as I was told. And so, and if you look at it like that, that's where we are, isn't it? We've got this wild, open truth future, the truth of who we are, and then this whole system that's fighting to keep that down and keep us down and keep us doing head down, walking forwards what we've always done. And so I feel like my life, kind of explains my life. It's what I've always, it's been my journey. And so, yeah, I'm so familiar with both sides of it. And, yeah, and the truth of it, when you read the skies, or when you go back into the past, or it's just all there. It's all laid out, like a map. And it's all a metaphor, isn't it? That map for us of everything that has happened, is happening, and where we're, what's possible, because no one knows what's gonna happen, because it's always, that's the point, is that it's just always an edge, that we're always, because we feed it and we create it. So it's all a metaphor, isn't it? When you look at what's happening in the world, it's all a metaphor, because it happens within us as well. So as within, so without, as above, so below. And here we are, with our torches lit, or holding up our lanterns, with our light inside, going, well, okay, do you want to come this way? Shall we kind of group together? Do you want to come in our gang? And we'll head off this way and see what wants to happen. But we're not the only ones, are we? There's loads of people now with their beacons, or with their, lanterns, and we're all finding our way.
Yeah. Shedding the conformity and shedding the structures, inner and outer, that have contained that wildness, right?
Well, some of us are, and that's what you see isn't it? If you look around the world and you see what's happening, that's what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
The questions are being asked, things are starting to shake. Those illusions that I talked about, that I knew when I was a kid. I was just thinking about when we were made to go to a school, when we were in infant school, and we were made to go to church periodically through the year for these things, Easter and Christmas and Whitsuntide. I don't know whether they have the same things as we used to have in. If it's not obvious, I used to live in Britain, and yeah, and I remember sitting there and being told, that we're sinful and we need to be redeemed, and our souls need salvation, and I sat there thinking, I don't think my soul needs salvation, and I don't think I need to be redeemed. I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't think you're talking about me. And so, yeah, it's like we look, that's what's happening. Things are being questioned. Structures are being shaked. Sure.
Yeah.
Things are starting to fall down. And that can be really disconcerting for people, eh? But I just always knew it was nonsense.
Yes. But we humans have part of this is probably in the sky as you read it, Shae, but in those other epochs, there's a tendency to put our comfort in something outside of us, because the archetypal storyline was that of the parent and the child, right? And so now the archetypal storyline is changing, and the child is being asked to grow up and to take back, their to be empowered and to individuate, as you said, in the beginning, and to pull the parent off the pedestal and to take responsibility, as you say, Dawn, right, for what we have created through the structures inside of us that have manifested this world.
Mm.
And that's part of why, for me, the lesson is always like, if you want to do external work, you need to do internal work, right? Because inside is a reflection of outside as well. We can't just do the outside work. We have to also do the inside.
I think the inside works, the most important. There's no way, nothing's happening out there unless you're doing
it inside. So that's a question.
In is up. Like in is up. There's no, like, I forget who it was, but there's a quote, and Richard uses it in one of the Gene Keys, and he says, and someone's saying, I'll go out and save the world, and one of the sages says, you can't save the world because you don't even know how to save yourself. Like, you just be out there chasing your tail. Like, until you know how to save yourself, you can't go and serve or save anyone.
Yes. Yeah. But I think that's part of the challenge right now, because a lot of people woke up, and if we wake up and say, oh, I have these, intuitive insights, and I'm meant to be a leader, but we're not doing the inner work, then it's only half of we're kind of leading with half of our toolbox.
I think it's even more profound than that, Paula. I think what's happening is, if you're trying to lead without doing the inner work, especially now, you're being found out. Look at all these names that are coming. They're being all called out. And again, that's something that I've picked up on for years, is like, I know what it is about you, but that's not washing with me. But they've got so much power and so much influence that, they develop whole models, and people just swallow it up line and sinker and go, oh, I want to be part of that, until something happens, and then they're like, oh, and or I knew something weren't quite right, so why weren't we listening? Why were we externalizing and giving our power to somebody else rather than trusting our own voice? It said something about this feels off, and that's what's happening. More and more, we're learning to come back to ourselves, and listen to our truth and our own voice.
Yeah, and then in the astrological correlation to that, so we're just coming now out of the age of Pisces, because the ages move backwards in the astrology backdrop, and we're in the age of starting the age of Aquarius, and Pisces is actually the last sign and the transcendence, but because it overlapped whilst we were still in patriarchal and in the Iron Age, the ignorant descending us part. Because if Pisces ever, which it will one day, probably that will be the final merging at the end of our journey for humanity, like eons and eons away. If Pisces ever aligns with the ultimate last period of ascension in the coming golden age, then Pisces is absolute liberation and transcendent and merging back with the creator at the end of the entire journey. But because that last 2,160 years of the age of Pisces, because it was also happening at the time of, and it's all what we agreed to experience for humanity, because we're learning and we're experiencing ourselves, but because it happened at the same time as the ignorance and the patriarchy, then instead of Pisces being ultimate spiritual liberation for humanity, it was religion and people trying to own religion and hierarchy religion, and even taking figures like Jesus, which was a bodhisattva or an ascended master, and owning him under the Catholic religion so that they could still create a hierarchy and a dominance and put the power out away from ourselves and put someone out there that we actually had to put our power towards, rather than us taking it in. And so the age of Aquarius, it's not like Aquarius or any sign is better than any other, but the age of Aquarius, it's only that it's ascending now. It's not that Aquarius itself is a higher liberator than Pisces. It's just that we're in the Ascension time now, and Aquarius shakes things up. So Aquarius destabilizes everything, and it will rupture the form. And so, but because we're in the bridge time right now, when we're still in the purging of our trauma and the purging of our ancestral karma and the purging time for humanity, where we have to purge everything that happened in the Iron Age, in the ignorance. And because of that, then with the Aquarius now, then people, because we're in the merging time, people are still so many people are still going, God will save us, or Jesus is going to come. And they're still putting it into religion as if Jesus is coming. And it's only because we're right at the end of Age of Pisces and they're still trying to figure it out, what it all means. It's like, no, Jesus was the liberated ascended master, and he left a legacy of showing what liberation could be. But then they took what he did in India, where he liberated himself, and then they put it under the patriarchal times again and confused everyone. And so everyone's still, so many people. I had a guy come up to me again yesterday and tell me to come to church because Jesus can save me. And we're in this time. We're in the time where we're actually supposed to come back to the knowing that the only one that can save ourselves is ourselves, because we are an aspect of the divine, and we're at that time of liberation now. And so the only way is in is ultimately up. Like, there's no way that we can go. Like, we can't even do half of the work outside of ourselves without doing it inside of ourselves. We've got to do like 80% of it in, and then there'll be parts that we can serve alongside of what we're doing on the inner work, because people will, like the 20% of service still helps the acceleration, but the rest of the time we're in. It's constant in.
And that inner work is why we see a floods of people turning to trauma healing and different modalities that give them that chance to go in, whether psychedelic assisted or internal family systems or somatic therapy, but also then branching out to more indigenous or non-Western perspectives as well. And then we get this blurring, right, of people, the therapists working spiritually and spiritual people doing trauma, and the lines are gone. And lines have been constructed by ourselves, because there are no lines, right? It's all, as you said before we started, Dawn, psychotherapy is spiritual work. So we see people looking for communities and pathways. What is important about discerning these communities or pathways that would help people right now? Where to turn, where to go, what to choose?
It's tough, isn't it, this? I just kind of touched on it a little bit before, because it's about discernment, and we're not good at doing that, because it's not a skill that we've been empowered to embody, because this patriarchal age and this descendance into ignorance that we've been in for eons doesn't require discernment. It requires obedience and compliance. It doesn't want you thinking for yourself. So, and those of us that have, and that do, are penalized for it and punished for it and cast out for it. Think about the burning of the witches, and you stand out, you think for yourself, you have a different opinion, you speak up, well, we'll get rid of you. So discernment is not something that's been rewarded. So even having thoughts for ourselves, that's where that voice of self-doubt comes in, and it questions it and says, well, who are you to think that, and what makes you think that you can do that, and why should you be any different, and what you can't be right. If that was really happening, then everyone else would know. And so there's this discernment we can all do it. Of course we can all do it, but it's something we've got out of the habit of doing, and then when we start doing it again, we don't trust.
I see a lot of not trusting in the sound journeys that I lead, where people will see or experience things and then try to go into sort of a story or neuroscience to explain what they are seeing and try to come up with some reason. There must be a reason I saw, and rather than, softening into the mystery and the fact that they're communicating with their soul at that, at that deep subconscious level. And so it takes a while to develop that comfort in trusting that.
Self-determination and, in shamanism, it's self-revelation, right? It's direct revelation.
Direct.
It's trusting that what you hear is what you hear, and not trying to take that, externalize that and fit it into something that someone else has said, so that you can feel more confident about it.
Even in the past life regressions, like people will experience themselves like shaking, and they're in the ocean and crying uncontrollably and boiling hot in a furnace. And then at the end of the process as well, in the journey, so they come back in the conversation to me to like the first moments of wow. And then after, it'll be trying to rationalize it again because and then trying to put it back into the head, because yes, of course that's what we've been conditioned to do during patriarchal times since school, or even before school, because our parents condition us also to do that. For most people, is not to trust that that side of ourselves, that the experience, and to try to work it out in the head. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say something here, and we're talking about feminine, masculine traits and qualities. So in the head, thinking it all out, rationalizing, logic, intellectualizing, analyzing it, so that you can explain it and describe it, and everyone gives you a big tick and goes, that's masculine. Coming back to feeling what we feel, believing who we are, trusting our gut, trusting our intuition. I'm not talking about believing either. I'm talking about knowing, because when you know something, you don't have to believe it. Knowing's way above believing. And it's and these are the feminine. And so in patriarchal times, of course, everything to do with the feminine is degraded and doesn't have any importance and is ridiculed. And when we're talking about, the time of Sophia and the energy of Sophia and this, this time that we're in now, that's all about the inner wisdom. It's all about the integration of knowing ourselves, trusting ourselves. And so it's such a big step. Of course, it's going to cause doubt. It's not even, it's deeper than doubt. It's going to cause fear. We're talking about an egregore here, aren't we? An egregore it's a system that it's part of an egregore is a collective thought form that's part of the consciousness. It's got its own energy. It's got its own energy field, and it stays alive because people don't question it. We just take it as being truth. We just take it as being, it's just the way that it is. And so to question that and to step outside of it, withdrawing your energy from an egregore, which is what you need to do to kill it. But withdrawing your energy from it can feel like it can feel like almost like killing yourself. Stepping,
not almost like it is.
It is.
Yeah, because of the ego. And I was thinking, like, so in like, so the power is like who holds the sacred, and the sacred is creation itself. And so there's a book, I love this book, and it's called I Am Lilith, and it was talking about at the end of the matriarchal times of ancient Egypt, and the women were so highly revered because the men weren't told that their semen was what caused women to give birth, and so whoever could give birth or create form was the power, like, was given the power. And so women were like highly revered because they would be the ones that could have a baby. And then as soon as, in that story, it's like Adam figures out actually our semen is what causes, and so we've got this magic potent, and this is what causes women to be able to have the babies. And without our semen, they're just the container, but they've got nothing magic going on inside of them, but we do, which is the semen. So then it was the turn of the patriarch, because they're the ones that are holding the life force energy. But now, even though we're in the Ascension times and the remembering, it is sort of a race of humanity remembering and taking the power back for the remembering, because now where the threat is we're in the Ascension. And yeah, there's one threat, which is still giving our power away to hoping a savior. But I think this is just now. But the biggest threat in the age of Aquarius is giving our power away to AI, to robots, because that is Aquarian. And so it still comes down to the sacred is the creation, and the creation holds the key, because we are the fractal of God. And so it still has to be, this time it's not patriarchal, matriarchal who's holding the power, it's humanity remembering, so that now it's not giving the power away to AI. Well, at the moment in this interim, like, we're giving the power away to a savior, but eventually it's don't give it away to robots either, to who are hijacking our consciousness. Like, the real power is we are the ones that we're asking for and that we're praying for, just to remember that we're a sacred aspect of the divine, and that is the liberation.
AI is just a metaphor.
AI is a metaphor. Yes, for more of the mind. Where I was going is that it's not just women that are awakening. Some men are awakening, and so the word people might hear is a Sophia/Christ consciousness, because it's the inhabitants of both the masculine and the feminine in their more divine expression. And so understanding those words and what those mean. And when we talk about discernment of the energy of the Sophia, what is important for people to understand about the discernment? Because there's so many varieties.
Yeah, obviously it's the discernment, really, like I said, it's not people that just can speak anything, but it is that authenticity, because it's a connection that you just feel. Yeah, it's just feeling. It's just like a felt scent connection. And so, like, we speak because that's what we're doing. We're sharing information, so we're speaking, but at the same time, we're not trying to speak anything to pedestal ourselves. Whereas whereas being in the most authentic expression of our like as us, and then whoever we can serve will resonate with that and will find us, because we can serve them in some way. I mean, they're serving themselves, but we're holding a container for to hold space for their service of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I don't even think it matters, because, wherever people end up is where people end up, and it's no one else's business where people end up. And I'm not even particularly interested in, trying to say something or be something or do something that sets us apart from anybody else. The fact is that, you know, everyone's different from everybody else. And so you'll just know. And if you, you know, if it were me, this is how I do it. If it were me, I'd be listening and thinking, oh, that chick kind of, you know, I kind of feel, I feel her. That feels to me. Yeah, if I'd like to put kettle on and have a cup of tea with you, and hear what you, and say, yeah, you know what, tell me a bit more about that, what you said. You know, then I'll come in and sit and want to listen. You know, but just, even if it's just that, just trust yourself. Even if it's a little thing like, oh, you know, I never thought about it that way. I wonder what she'd say about that. Or, you know, if it just makes a part of you just perk up or go, what was that? Or, you know, just come and just find out. Come and ask us some questions. Find out a little bit more. Doing that don't mean you've got to throw yourself in, you know, up, line and sinker. But just, we were just talking, weren't we, before we started, about things that don't look the way that you think they're going to look. Just bear that in mind.
Yeah. Thank you.
And there's just us two here at the minute, and you, Paula. I mean, Paula's the incredible one that's kind of, you know, brought all of this thing together. But, you know, how many other people are there that, you know, that have found their way? And it's not like you've gone around with this tick list going, right, I need 10 people for my faculty and I want this skill, and this skill. And you've gone looking for them. It's not been that way. You know, we've all found our way to you, and then it's just kind of happened really organically, which is, to me, is, you know, yeah, that might be something else to discern, you know, as how someone put their organization together. Because this has been really organic. It's been a bit weird, hasn't it, actually?
Yeah, I've learned to trust the process and allow, you know, this is part of the mystery of having a relationship with the field itself, and trusting that there's a plan in place. If we can get out of the way and get out of our own way with our ego and our ideas, then things unfold, and you just step on stone, kind of like the yellow brick road, and you just step on each piece of it, and before you know, you're at the end of it. So that's what this has been.
And I think I put in this now too. So today we're in the 55th gene key, and that's what humanity's moving through. And so that I have the 55, obviously, so it's my birthday today. But we've kept, so the shadow of the 55 is victim. We've kept ourselves safe during patriarchal times, playing the victim, because obviously the witches were persecuted. We actually kept ourselves safe in the church and in Western cultures and everywhere, being the victim. And so it's the shadows are actually safety, like the way we keep ourselves safe based on what paradigm humanity's playing out as a collective. But the gift of that gene key is freedom. And so coming into a time now, we can't, like, every time someone plays victim, even to giving their power away to someone else that's a guru, every time we play victim now, and it doesn't keep us safe anymore. It does the opposite. So the way humanity keeps ourselves safe now is by being in our freedom. Like, our freedom, our sovereignty is how we keep ourselves safe now, because it's a new game. We're in a new game for humanity. And so that's when one quick advice of discernment is really question your own conditioning there, and question that the way that we've kept ourselves safe before, and by playing small and by playing the victim, and now it doesn't work.
And it goes against everything. It goes against the grain, doesn't it? It goes against everything that you've been taught. So I always tell my clients, if it feels wrong, it's probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, and like our schooling system and everything is just classic, and it worked. It worked. The left brain system worked through the building phase while we were still in the industrial and the material building phases. It worked for the kids to be victim, and it worked in the medical system for you to be a victim and then look up to the doctors and ask the question. It worked because we were playing that game. But now every time someone goes to the doctor as a victim, you can count on the fact that it's not going to work anymore, and you're going to have to be free and to trust your own way. And the same in the school. The kids that are able to really be free and sovereign themselves, they are changing the system from the inside out, because that's what they're here for.
Or you get sectioned and institutionalized.
So many systems are going to change as a result of this, as more and more people move towards sovereignty, inner freedom, deconstruction, right, of all those conditions. And my hope is, as we wrap up today, that this has given us a chance to, just lean into some hard topics and allow people a chance to hang out with us. Let us, let us into their lives a little bit so they can feel how we engage, and that we are holding all the pieces. There is no bypassing in this work. It's embodied work. It's trauma healing. It's hard work. It's spiritual warrior, you could say, right? Yeah. So I thank you both for this dialogue and this time and this cup of tea that we've shared across the ocean. And I look forward to having you back again, having you and the faculty of the program launching. We have a soft launch in March, and then a more formal one in June. We'll move into some more intensive sharing of these faculty members as they bring their wisdom to the membership circle and the groups that we run. So tune in, check out the website, and find their websites as well. I'll make sure those are in the show notes, and we'll be back. Thank you so much, both of you.